when I tell people that I'm doing my project centering around diversity, uh, it doesn't go over too well because we've been trained to understand diversity as a concept, this broad, unachievable idea, something that we will be listening to presentations on forever. So my goal is by the end of this presentation, you no longer see diversity as something to strive for or a concept just hanging out of reach, but as something that can be broken up, something that once divided into less overwhelming portions becomes more of an attainable goal. So with that being said, I introduce bookshelf diversity. Essentially, the aim is to widen perspectives of people through books. These books focus on telling stories of minorities and amplifying minority authors as well. So why is a response given all too often to subjects with the foundation of representation? We're doing just fine with the English curriculum we have currently. It's not absolutely necessary to diversify the books being taught in schools. However, I think that we all too often feel this need to separate things into two categories, need and want. And I think that's actually going to hurt us in the end. We don't necessarily need to learn about diversity, but we should. We should welcome students into the classroom with diversity. We should create a more open environment for students to share their own perspectives. So there are a couple different points of why humans strive to expand their knowledge. So we can really, really expand our knowledge by just opening up our window into the world, making it a bit bigger through these books. And then we can think about our identity as well. We can check our privilege and also think about how we've been maybe unfairly treated due to something that we can't change as a part of us. We can also show as students, teachers, and publishers that we want to read more of these books. We want them to amplify the minority authors' voices. We want them to, bring in more of these perspectives into the classroom, into our world, so that we can learn. So we have to identify healthy diversity now, and resort to tokenism is how the New York Times describes the sudden interest shown in diversifying reading to evade backlash. While it's wonderful to see schools and people opening up to introducing a range of books, it becomes a backhanded compliment when they keep dragging their feet about it. Some teeter dangerously on the edge of falling into a downward spiral of performative diversity, triggered by a mentality housed by an upsetting number of teachers and students alike. Representation will always just be the gay friend or the Chinese character celebrating Lunar New Year, so the bare minimum to appease those calling for it. It neglects to show that the given identity is valid even without the holiday or the event. Well, it's not inherently bad to educate on specific holidays, traditions pertaining to the minority, but if it's the only time that we're reading about these minorities, it could promote a closed mindset, one that makes these characters feel different. And author Julia Alvarez discusses this worry specifically with Latino students, saying it should be as natural reading about these characters as white characters. So on the next step of moving off the edge of that cliff, we now must identify what healthy diversity looks like. To me, representation shouldn't just be a story of a gay person coming out. It should resemble a story that a cishet character would have too. While you can't write a story about a minority without identifying some of the daily struggles they face, their struggles should not be what the story is built around. Yes, there's a time and a place for more specified books, but I would classify Real Change as the inclusion of minority characters into stories that could have cishet white characters. Oh, there we go. So when I did this presentation for my class, I gave some of my favorite book recommendations that have minority characters in them. So this is one of the things I've been doing to try and promote these books a little bit more. I also emailed my first grade teacher and a couple other teachers, but specifically my first grade teacher, about what she's doing, because if we can introduce these books at a younger age, it won't be a sort of a shock to the system once they, enter the real world. So when introducing these books in first grade is actually like, it can help children grasp concepts that adults are struggling to understand today. And she responded to me kind of outlining her curriculum and what books she uses to teach about this, the different programs that she uses. And yeah, that's kind of how I've been trying to expand my topic past my editorial and presentation.